Hi everybody, this is Dick again with another SQL walkthrough exercise off the Data Lemur site. Today I'm going to be working on a medium level difficulty question or problem from Snapchat. Today what I want to do is show you there are often multiple ways of solving a particular problem. This is true in general for programming, but just want to show you an example here with SQL. When I came through this problem, I had this way of solving it, and then I looked at the solution. And this is something I recommend, is when you're done, always look at the solution. You may see another way of doing it, a better way of doing it. Maybe your way is better than theirs. It's often good to see multiple ways of doing these problems. So anyway, I'm going to show you my solution first. My solution involves creating a couple of CTEs, basically subtables, to be used in a later query. The other solution that I found on Data Lemur involves the use of a case statement, which results in fewer subtables. So let's look at the question here to begin with. We have sending versus opening snaps. What we're given here is two tables. One table of activity, just simply called activities, where they have different types of activities: opens, sends, chats, amount of time spent on that activity, when it happened, the user ID involved, and then the ID of the activity. The second table is the age breakdown. So basically this creates buckets for those. So one user might be in the 21 to 25 bucket, another user might be in the 26 to 30 bucket, another user might be in a 31 to 35 bucket. And what we want to do here is, for each of these buckets, determine the percentage of sending versus opening snaps. As I've done before, I want to just kind of highlight what we're doing here. This is kind of a trick that I learned in high school physics, is just get everything you know and just summarize it here. So we're going to create a comment. We want to get the time spent opening snaps. We want that as the percent of total. And then the time spent sending snaps, also percent of total. What we want here is percentage of total time spent on these activities. So we're going to ignore those chat activities and any other activities completely. And we're going to say that the total time is equal to open plus send. Let me see. We want to group by age group. Group by age group or age bucket. Let's see. We want to output the age bucket percentage, and we want to round to 2 decimal places. So we're going to round to 2 decimals. To avoid integer division in percentages, we want to multiply by 100.0 and not by 100. Okay, so we're going to use multiply by 100.0 to get percentage. All right, and we'll go ahead and close that. All right, so the way I did this is I created 2 separate subtables, one of sends and one of opens. So let's look at this here. I'm going to select, so for my sends table, I'm going to select the age bucket and the sum of the time spent. I'm going to call that as sending from activities. I'm going to rename this act just for simplicity's sake. Join age breakdown as age on act.user ID equals age.user ID. Okay. So that allows us to blend those two tables. All right, now, so this is just going to be my sends. So where activity type equals send, and then we're going to go ahead and group by age bucket. All right, so let's see what this table looks like. Okay, so for each age bucket gives a total amount of time spent sending snaps. So let's go ahead and create this, make this a CTE. So with, I'm going to just call this table sends as, and let's indent that. And then I'm going to do another one, opens as, and I'm just going to copy this over because it's going to be the same query with a minor modification. So we're going to call this, this time we're going to limit to these to the opens. And I'm going to call this, instead of sending, I'm going to call this opening. Okay. Now let's see what we have. I'm just going to select star, I don't know, select age bucket. Right, so we're going to have to, let me do this here first. So from sends S as S, join opens as O on, we're going to use age bucket as the common here. So S dot age bucket equals O dot age bucket. All right, now I'm going to come back up here. So age bucket, S dot age bucket, S dot sends, and O dot opens. Now it's not really necessary to do S dot sends and O dot opens. We could just say sends and opens because there's only one place that occurs. We do have to specify where the age bucket comes from because it's in both tables. It's in the sends and the opens. It really makes no difference here which one we choose, but we'll choose S because it comes first. All right, so we've got that. And all right, let's run to see what we've got here so far. Whoops. S.sends does not exist. Oh, sending, not sends. And this is opening. All right, so here's what happens when we join these two tables. We have our age buckets, the amount of time sending and opening, and now we can just change that to make that percentages. We're going to call this, we're just going to round 100.0 times s.sending slash, and then the sum of sending and opening is s.sending plus o dot opening. And I want 2 decimal places. And then I'm going to call this as send percent. And now we'll do the same thing here. Round 100.0 times o dot opening slash the total s dot sending plus o dot opening, 2 decimal places as open percent. Now if you run this, we see the percentages. All right, so we'll go ahead and submit this just to make sure. Yeah, and accepted. So we have the same numbers. So this is the way I did it. Now, as I mentioned, once we're done, it's always a good idea to take a look at the solution to see how your solution compares with theirs. You may find ways of cleaning up the code. You'll often see things that people just have really ugly code or really sometimes better code than you. A lot of times you'll see when we look at the solution, we'll see another solution. And that's what I'm going to go on here. Now, really, this end here is going to be exactly the same. But the only difference here is we're going to create a single table here. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to call this, we're going to create that earlier table that I said earlier. So I'm just going to call this times as, all right, before I do this, I just want to show something else. So I'm just going to comment this out for now. All right, so let's just select, I'm going to use the same tables, age bucket. Now I'm going to do the sum, and then inside the sum, I'm going to go case when act.activity type equals send, then act.time spent, else 0 end, sends. Sends. So what this is going to do is going to go through, and every time it sees something, if it says send down here, it's going to use that value, and it's going to add up, that's the sum, every time that this says send. Later we're going to group by age bucket, so it's getting it the right answer there. So we're going to do the same thing now for case when act.activity type equals open, then act.time spent, else 0 end as opens. All right, and then from activities as act, join age breakdown as age on act.user ID equals age.user ID group by age.age bucket. Now, if you compare, a lot of this is very similar. The main difference here is I use two tables to create and then join those two tables to make the single table. This uses a single subtable and uses the sum, but the rest of this stuff is really kind of the same. Let's just run this and see what we get. And we see we have this same thing we had before, the sends and opens. Now we're going to go ahead and make this a CTE. So with times as clean this up a little bit. All right. Now, the rest of this really is just the same. The only difference really is that I have a different name for that table here. Actually, we don't need to do a join here at all, so we'll just say from times. Okay. Run code. Whoops. Table S. Line 21. Oh, yeah. Let's get rid of all this. Select age bucket. We want, I did change the variables here, so let's change this to sends. opens. All right, let's try now. Oops, take those out. And there we go. So let's just check this again and accept it. So you see there are two ways of solving this problem. There are certain similarities. This n part is really just the same formula. It's really just a matter of how we get that table of times. I use two tables. They created it all in one table using the case statement. Okay. Well, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks a lot. Bye.